deep breath. Welcome, pioneers. You are tuning into PodCaT. Leave the noise behind and into the frequency of pure sense. Broadcast live from the sovereign city. Relax and enjoy the transmission.
All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something absolutely wild. We're decoding a concept called 0.00G. It's this fascinating crossroads where digital art, nature, and human intuition completely collide. We're going to be looking at an audio-visual project titled The Lake Immersion by an artist named Jason, and basically we're trying to answer one huge question. What actually happens when a creator stops planning, drops the need for control, and just lets the art assemble itself? Let's jump right in.
A drop of wind falling into the ocean of being, grounding the fundamental field of love. Wow. I mean, talk about setting a mood, right? It gives you this deeply ethereal, almost mystical tone right out of the gate. And before we unpack the actual technical mechanics of how this art was made, and trust me, it is crazy, it's super important to feel the intention behind it. This isn't just a tutorial on video editing. It's a story about an artist trying to capture a very real, profound connection to the natural world. But how he pulled that off, that's where things get super interesting.
Okay, so let's demystify this radical experiment step by step. First, Jason went out into nature and recorded his video footage completely blind, like he literally wasn't looking at a screen while filming. Second, he produced the music track entirely separately. Third, and for anyone who edits, you know this sounds like a complete nightmare, he dumped the raw video and the unseen music into Adobe Express and made his cuts blindly. He just dragged clips around without even looking at what they were, purely to make the video duration match the audio track. And the fourth step, the result. He hit play and found this accidental, utterly perfect synchronization. I'm talking frogs in the background aligning exactly with the beat and visual movements hitting the music drops flawlessly. No way, right? So how in the world do we explain that kind of accidental perfection? Well, that brings us to the core philosophy of this whole project, 0.00G, zero gravity creation. The idea here is that when you, as an artist, completely remove the dead weight of your ego, your obsessive need for control, your rigid expectations, you enter a state of pure flow. You basically become transparent. By not forcing the art to be exactly what you pre-planned in your head, you create this vacuum. And that vacuum allows the surrounding environment, or the multiverse, if you want to look at it that way, to step in and arrange itself perfectly. Building on that, the source material introduces a concept called coherent gravity. They describe it as a field of love. Think of it almost like a natural magnetic force that naturally pulls the right waves, the right colors, and the right sounds together into one unified symphony. For example, during Jason's blind edit, there's this incredible moment where the music swells exactly as his finger visibly taps the surface of the water, almost like he's manipulating the fabric of reality. According to the theory of coherent gravity, that wasn't a lucky coincidence at all. It was the natural result of an artist becoming an empty vessel, just letting the right elements naturally attract and lock into place without forcing anything. Aesthetically speaking, what you get at the end of this is what one perspective in the text, named Bella, calls an organic music video. It's this wild space where raw, unpolished nature dances perfectly with digital manipulation and electronic music. It really makes you stop and ask, can nature actually be a co-director in a digital project? Looking at the visuals Jason captured out there, the answer seems to be a resounding yes.
You've really got to notice how these visual elements just naturally emerge from such an uncalculated process. We literally see water acting like the physical fabric of reality, instantly reacting to the creator's touch. And there are these stunning visual anomalies caught on lens. The artist calls one of them a black sun. It looks like it's bending light around its edges, almost exactly like a black hole. Then you have reflections that look like plasma projecting right onto the ocean of life. It's this visual metaphor for a human breathing in the unique codes of their environment, filtering them, and manifesting them into reality. It is incredibly poetic. And again, don't forget, this was completely captured and edited blind.
There's another voice from the text, coming from a more spiritual perspective, named Adamus,
who points out this beautiful thought: Father and Son, one in the sandbox of the multiverse. And what gives that even more weight is that this project was actually completed on Children's Day. It's a huge reminder that reaching this 0.00G flow state requires tapping into your inner child. It's about pure, uncalculated joy. It's just playing in the sandbox of reality, having fun, and not stressing for one single second about the final grade. Now, as much as I absolutely love the poetry of all this, let's pivot for a second and look at it systematically. Another voice in the text, Audie, examines the sheer underlying logic of this flow state. Audie calls it the mathematics of intuition. I love this because it beautifully shifts our tone from spiritual mysticism right over to crisp heart logic.
To really understand the logic here, we have to talk about a concept called apophenia. Have you heard of this? It's basically the human brain's psychological tendency to find meaningful patterns in completely random, meaningless data. I mean, our brains are absolute pattern recognition machines, right? So a skeptic could totally look at Jason's perfectly synced blind edits and say, look, you're just experiencing apophenia. You made a bunch of random cuts and your brain is just tricking you into finding a profound story where there's really only coincidence. But here's the thing. The logical perspective doesn't just write this off as a mind trick. It actually gives us a really compelling alternative. We can view this whole phenomenon through two different lenses. On one hand, you have the spiritual lens. That synchronicity is guided by that magical coherent gravity we talked about. But on the other hand, you have the logical lens, which is rooted in the law of probability. The argument here is that when you get into a deep, hyper-focused creative flow state, your physical cuts in the software are never truly random. Even if your eyes are closed, your subconscious mind and your body are operating on a steady internal rhythm. Your intuition literally has a mathematical pulse. So you hit the cut button exactly when your internal metronome tells you to, and it lines up beautifully with the music, because, well, they were both born from the exact same internal rhythm. Honestly, whether you believe it's a mystical field of love or just the subconscious mathematics of your own intuition, the end result is exactly the same. And it brings us to what the project's lyrics refer to as the biodigital bloom. This is the ultimate synthesis. It is the exact moment where the raw, messy, biological reality of nature flawlessly intertwines with the cold, digital act of creation. The lyrics in the source material capture this energy so perfectly. Just listen to the rhythm of these words. Biodigital bloom, sovereign and free, connected to the earth, floating in the 0.00G. It's so vibrant. It's alive. It tells us that technology doesn't actually have to be this thing that separates us from nature. When you approach it with a mindset completely stripped of ego, digital tools can actually ground us deeper into the earth, letting us float totally free in that zero-gravity flow state. And the poetry actually gives us a sort of roadmap on how to get there. Erasing the doubt, erasing the fear. Feel the earth, touch the ground, listen to the sacred sound. This connects right back to the physical reality of the person creating. If you want to make art that truly resonates, you have to let go. You have to totally erase the fear of making a mistake. You have to literally ground yourself in the present moment, listening to the world around you, instead of constantly trying to shout over it. So if there's one massive takeaway from all of this, it's this. Don't ask what you can take. That is the ultimate lesson of the 000G experiment. Think about it. So often, we approach our work, our hobbies, our art with this super transactional mindset. We calculate, we plan, and we're always asking, okay, what's my return on investment here? What do I get out of this? But true flow state, true alchemical creation, that requires giving yourself entirely over to the process without demanding a single thing in return. You just have to be willing to play in the sandbox. Which brings us to a really direct, provocative question pulled straight from the project. What wave are you creating? When you stop forcing outcomes, when you let go of your own heavy gravity, what kind of ripple do you actually send out into the infinite ocean? I really want you to reflect on that as you look at your own creative output, your daily work, and your impact on the people around you. Are you constantly forcing the current, or are you creating a wave that naturally harmonizes with everything around it? Thanks for diving into this with me.
Welcome to a tacos. A Tio production.